Welcome to the next episode of Pathpoe Talks. And today is super exciting day because my friend Kasia is joining us for the episode. And wow, I'm so excited for the conversation we have ahead. And thank you so much, Kasia, for being here.
Come on, I'm so excited as well. A bit nervous.
Same.
But thank you for inviting me. I feel so honored.
Oh,
And I'm really excited. It's gonna be good.
yes, it's going to be amazing because actually with Kasia, the last time we sat down to kind of talk a bit what the core message of this podcast is going to be. And I'm so happy because this is a topic very much alive for myself. And also I feel like a lot of people can relate to this transition from doing things from the right side of brain, very analytical, and switching to the heart, right? To the intention, to the flow. But first of all, I want to introduce who is it with us? What type of achievements you want me to introduce first? Because there are so many.
Then I don't know. I feel like it's so hard, like with identity and everything, because like you want to when you, especially if you introduce yourself, like you want to like put the name in boxes. I don't really identify with anything anymore. I'm just happy to be and like see and explore and do art, do yoga, and just go with the flow. So I don't really know like I'm just me, like there's actually like I tried to like step out of the the boxes, but it's so hard with podcasts because you want to
it's
introduce and be like meeting new people, like who are you? But
so Kasia used to be a professional athlete with many, many incredible achievements, both of course in Poland, but also internationally representing the country and also going to United States on a sports scholarship to do her studies there. She took part in, for example, Youth Olympic Games. She did the race of Oxford versus Cambridge. And when I asked her about how many championships of Poland and how many wins she gathered over the years, she just said she really doesn't know because it's so many, but basically a lot. Apart from this, she had an amazing career in academia, studying at USC in California, in Los Angeles. Also, she finished a master's at Cambridge. So really, really a beautiful achievement. But apart from it, we could all say that it's just a starting point. But I will give the mic to you, Kasia, if there's anything else you would like to add that's important for our listeners to know.
Wow, it's so weird to like hear you summarize everything because it really feels like old chapter that is like closed and it happened and it's a beautiful like part of my story, but it just like feels like it's so long ago. And like even like listening like achievements and everything, I used to like be so goal oriented and I loved like the achievement mindset of let's do this and achieve this and everything. And now it just feels like it's in the past. Now I'm just happy to be alive and just experience magic of everyday little moments and do the things I love, like art, and just explore the world, travel, do meditations, yoga, and be curious about everything. So I feel that's the chapter I'm in now. And it's hard to put achievements into this one because I feel it really doesn't measure. It's like not the measurement for this, what is happening now. But like in the previous chapter, a lot of things happened and it's beautiful. And I feel like it's still part of the story and I'm really proud of those things. But it's kind of like hugging your little sister and being like, you're doing great, sweetie.
This is so cute.
But thank you for this. That was like, I know it was like stressful for you to start and like introduce and summarize, but that was like very beautiful to listen to. And I'm so happy to be here. And
wow. Thank you. Thank you so much, Kasia. And I'm so curious what you said, right? That it feels like an old chapter that you already closed. And that sounds like a story, right? To go from very much goal-oriented mindset to something that you're exploring right now. Can you take us back in time, wherever that lays on the timeline, that you started noticing that something internally started shifting?
yeah, I feel like it's hard to like pinpoint, but because it's a gradual change, I feel like that's usually the case that, things like sometimes click and then we have the aha moment, but like it's a gradual change. So I feel like it all started with my love for rowing. Rowing is a water sport in nature and so beautiful to experience and just be on the water, but it's also very competitive. You have like, the goal-oriented mindset. You can compete. You can like measure your achievements, measure your progress. Everything is like so structured and like you have the ladder to climb, the next steps. And I enjoyed it so much and I loved rowing so much. And it was so exciting to have something you love so much and put so much heart into it. And I was like, just so excited, I don't know, to put for the first time like the Polish national rowing costume, like the uniform and everything. Wow, so proud. But then it went from, with time and many different situations.
Because what age rowing came to your life?
I feel like I was 13 or 14.
13.
Like first grade of middle school.
Okay.
Yes. And then I rowed all through middle school and high school, competing for our club, because that's how we actually met. We met through rowing. So we rowed in Kraków and then, competing for the club, for the national team, just like going from practice to practice, from competition to competition. But then, with different situations that were like a bit like, because if you put your heart on the line, like I feel like it's easy to get hurt and like things start getting to you when there's a lot of that. So I feel like I really started losing the heart for it, kind of like to protect myself, I think, because it went from something I really loved to something that was like hurting me, but I still wanted to do it. So I feel like I started like kind of closing my heart for it and just losing the feel and the touch, but still doing it because that's something that was such a big part of my life and so important for me. So then I feel like when I got the scholarship to study in the US, I already was at the point where rowing was something that was in my life, but it wasn't like something I loved anymore necessarily. But it opened so many beautiful doors for me, and I'm very grateful for those last few years where I feel like it became more of a job and I was more closed off, like in terms of like how much heart and how much, not effort, because I was putting a lot of effort, but still like, like you try to protect yourself. But I'm very grateful for those years as well, because I feel like it really like redirected me into a different path. And also I feel I got to experience so many beautiful things, study abroad, experience different culture. And I don't know, I met so many beautiful people that I'm still friends with. They're like my family. Hi girls, if you're listening, you know who you are. So it's very beautiful at the same time. But I feel like we already talked about, not in this podcast, but about like, two different sides to the story. That there is like the beauty, but also like it doesn't mean that it comes like so easily and without any like hurdles or struggles. So, okay, so I feel that was kind of like losing the heart for the sport. That's kind of like was the start of going on different adventure. Then in the US.
But wait, before we head into the US journey, like tell me, how did you manage mentally, like knowing that the thing that got you to go there to study, you already felt like it's dead end in terms of like how you feel toward it, that you're facing burnout? Because I can imagine that is not a fun spot to be mentally, knowing that you kind of need to continue. How did you navigate that situation?
Oh, I feel it was I think it's always a journey, and it's not a linear thing. You have better moments and like worse moments. But before, I feel that was a year before when I started, facing the burnout. I would just tell to myself, see how you feel in a month, or I don't know, like take it step by step, day by day, because you've put so much time and effort into it already, and you're not the one to give up, but I don't actually know what I want to say.
No, but this is so beautiful, right? In a way that it's a challenging journey to navigate, right? Because I feel like more and more we're becoming aware that, no matter what path you choose, it's always going to be 50-50, as my coach always says, right? But like, it doesn't mean that this road is smooth and easy, right? It's just different challenges that you're willing to take for the gain, right? So I don't know, for me, it's kind of inspiring but also I have a lot of commitment issues, so maybe that's why it's inspiring for me. But like what you're saying, that you decided to give yourself time and also honor your past effort you put into the whole thing, right? To kind of see it through. So it's also very beautiful when you speak about this, that, of course, burning out is nothing that we want to strive for, but if you're faced with it, like, you can navigate it differently, right? It doesn't need to mean, I need to drop everything like you worked for and kind of walk away from it, right? But please tell me more.
I think it also like comes down to hope. You always, I don't know, I felt I always in this situation hope that it will change. I don't know, give it a little bit more time and I will feel this spark again and like feel the love. And it would come and just didn't align anymore. But that's how actually I discovered different things. Like, my parents are artists, but I always loved going to museums and like drawing when I was little and everything, but I never like gave myself like the permission or to try and explore. So I think that's in the US when I was like already like very burned out, because we were practicing like insane hours compared to like what I used to row, and I already thought like, wow, how can you do more? But you can push your body to, there is always more, I think. Like,
you give us, a ballpark to even understand what kind of schedule you were faced with?
So the schedule was intense. We would, on top of school and going to classes and studying and having exams and everything, we would practice twice a day. Every day except of Sundays. Sundays were for studying. I would just give you an outline of an example of a day. We would go and go to, at 6 a.m. there was pickup time. We would drive to the port, which is half an hour away from campus. And then we would like change quickly, warm up and go in the water. And on the water, we would do like minimum 25K of rowing, which is
insane.
It is insane. Like, for, I don't know, on national team for juniors or under 23, if you did over 20, that was a long workout. Like, but the average was, I don't know, 15K. And then here, the minimum was 25, but on average, I would say 5K, so twice as much. And no matter what boat you were in pair, so in a double, 2 people, in single, 1 person, or in 8 people, it changes the speed you're going at, but the distance was still the same. So after that, we would drive back to campus, change quickly and go to classes, have classes. And then in the afternoon, we would either have weights or ergometer, which is a rowing machine. And for the ergometer, it would be literally the same as on the water, something different practices. I don't know, some speed work or but it was intense. I did literally doing a marathon of rowing every day almost. But you get used to it so quickly and your body can endure so much. It's honestly like, when I think back about it, I cannot even imagine doing this work now at all. How it's insane. And school as well. But I feel like I was like really escaping, like putting like less and less, just being in the movement, like just like going and doing the things, like the routine of it, but like not too much passion or effort into rowing. But then I would like find like the things I was happy and excited about like outside of it. So that's how I would like put so much effort into my classes and academics. And I honestly like loved the academic side of USC. You could like choose the classes you were taking. I took so many interesting classes, not only within my major, which was cognitive science. About brain, and I had a lot of psychology, neuroscience, very exciting things that I was so excited to learn about. But also had the chance to take elective classes that were a requirement. But I had classes about the universe. like astronomy, or I took class about Broadway musicals. So you could read it, just learn so much and kind of explore your interests. And because you could always, within the first 2 years, let's say, you could change your majors. I came in as cognitive science major and stayed this way. But I know a lot of people who came in and then they took a class that kind of interested them. And they were like, whoa, okay, I want to study that. So they would just switch majors. That's so cool that there is such an opportunity to do that, because in Poland, I don't know, choose major, like applying for a specific major, and that's what you're doing. And there's no way to switch. You have to start over in the beginning. So that was very cool. And as part of the journey, academic journey, I started taking classes in art as kind of time for myself. I really felt it was my safe space to take those classes, and I was so excited to take them. And also to learn and explore. It was so exciting because I could experience so many different techniques and everything. I took painting, drawing, printmaking, photography, and you could really just explore, learn so much, also learn to express yourself and feel confident in that, and find your language, what you're passionate about, what do you actually want to say, what are your interests. And I found myself always coming back to, trying to connect different aspects of my life into one, because it felt I almost had 3 different identities.
More about that.
I was a rower, I was an academic, and I always felt I was good at school. That was my identity. And then the identity I started to develop was an artist. So that's very cool. But it really felt like 3 different aspects of my life, and also almost 3 different not personalities, but 3 very big parts of my life. But I always found myself trying to connect those into one, and art became such a thing for me to connect those things, coming from the space of, trying to manage my emotions and the emotions connected to the burnout and sports side of it. I started treating and also taking the knowledge from cognitive science and psychology, and I took some meditation classes there. That's my first exposure to meditation and mindfulness. And I really started connecting the dots, and something that started interesting me was how art can be your tool for well-being, almost art therapy, but for yourself, auto therapy. And I really treated art as my safe space and something that helped me with that.
And tell me, because you mentioned that you felt like you have those 3 pillars of your identity, which I can totally relate to as well. And I feel many people experience that it feels all in the boxes. The boxes are separate, and it's very hard to combine them and be like, okay, this is me, right? So tell me, what was the driving force inside of you that made you even wonder, hey, I want to connect them. I don't want them separate anymore. Do you remember what was happening at your life and in your mind at the time that actually led you to be like, how can I, actually make it one whole, me?
Yeah. I think it came from studying cognitive science, which is a very dimensional way of looking at the brain.
Can you tell us a little bit more about what is it actually? The major that you took?
So cognitive science is a study of brain, and it looks at brain and mind from different perspectives. So from psychology perspective, from neuroscience, from, educational perspective, from philosophical perspective. So you have those different perspectives, but they all come into one, just looking at the same phenomenon. And I feel studying that and looking at the brain and mind from different perspective, I really took that as a metaphor for my life almost. How there is different things, but they are actually connected through me. Because it sometimes feels there is different being. But it's actually just one. Knowing that you can look at phenomenon from different perspectives, but it's still about the same thing, just different ways of expressing that or describing the same thing. I like took that and like tried to like apply into my life and like trying to connect the dots. I was like very like fascinated with the process of like just trying to connect ideas that seem that they're not connected, but they are, because I feel this way and I want to connect them. And it's possible.
Were there any other influences in your life at the time of matter of, I don't know, anything that you were consuming in terms of books or podcasts or anything else that influenced you in this thinking of, let me connect the seemingly things that don't fit, right, together? Was there anything else apart from the cognitive science you were studying?
I feel not really, because literally like there was no time for anything. So at that point, like it was all very intuitive almost, but also like I had a very academic perspective. I loved the systematic way of expressing things, and like I really like came from that, like trying to put things into boxes, name them. And I feel I don't do that anymore. And like now, you know, I consume so many like different, you know, you can learn through anything, like through experience, but like through podcasts, books, like, you know, just like it's so fun to let yourself and like give space and time to just like explore and see what comes. So nowadays I really enjoy this aspect of like just seeing like where it takes me and like having an open mind. But back then, like, also comes down to control thing. Like, you want to have control over it. like especially like if your whole day is like, you know, planned out, like, and you don't really have control over your schedule, your life. You just like do things because the coach tells you to, or you have to go to school. Like, you know, it's just like it's all organized for you. And then like, I feel the biggest turning point where all of the 3 identities I was talking about crashed down was after I graduated from my master's. And I have no idea what I want to do next, you know, and it all came crashing down because there was no default thing to do next. You could do a PhD, and that's what I tried to do. But you know, the road ends, and then you have to start deciding for yourself. There's no one else who's going to tell you what to do. And you have so much freedom, but with freedom comes, you know, so much anxiety, I think, at the same time, because there is so much to choose from, and you have to decide for yourself and like, what is the right thing to do, the right path, and you have to explore. And it's all very scary, but also very worth it, like when you actually start listening to yourself.
Wow. That's amazing. Definitely, let's dive deeper into what came after your realization, but going back in time still to
Sorry if it's chaotic, like...
No, this is amazing, but... Please, okay, coming back to the first moment you were like, okay, I want to connect those 3 pillars.
Yeah.
How did you start exploring it? What did it mean for you when you were still studying in LA?
Yes, I think I started, you know, exploring the themes in my art that were connected to psychology or rowing. I would just take different aspects of my life and then try to like digest it through art. Also, it really just like felt like therapy, you know. So from the academic perspective, I would start exploring also the academic, not only giving myself space to, you know, try to connect dots through art. I don't know, do a little cabinet furniture piece inspired by the structure of neurons in the brain, or do a print that was inspired by the muscle in your heart. So just kind of like, you know, like visually trying to apply the scientific things into
this is
art.
Amazing.
But
I have no idea. Of course, that's incredible.
But then from the academic perspective, I would start writing, exploring the theme of, you know, art therapy and how art is used as a tool for, you know, improving the mental well-being, especially, you know, connecting it back to sport. I feel in sport have to be tough, and, you know, talking about mental health, like I feel like there's more of that now, but you know, going to say like there's so much stigma. You have to just have strong mind, and like showing weaknesses, you know, there is like not really much space for that. So art therapy is actually a great way of working with athletes because it's not a real therapy when you feel, go to psychologist or psychiatrist and like share, but it's kind of like learning through art and like exploring your emotions and different themes through art as a tool. So that's kind of like I started like trying to approach it also like from the academic perspective, learning about like art therapy. Like I would write papers about it for my classes in psychology. So I just tried to connect it and approach it from this different perspectives. And the sport was just there.
So within the sport area and the rowing career that was still happening, the art therapy, was it purely for you, for your purposes, or have you experienced and explored how to make it out into the world of rowing?
Something that I actually want to do next with my NGO. I want to like apply what I know now and like try to like give back and like make sure that the young athletes don't have to like go for oh my god, that's so time, and they have tools to deal with it. But that's kind of like so far I've just been approaching it from the academic perspective.
Okay.
So just writing in theory and trying to name things. I really was obsessed with putting labels on and naming the phenomenon because I feel I was lacking the language to explain what I was actually feeling and thinking. So it was kind of almost a tool for, okay, if I have name and I can put it in a box, then there is easier to talk about it and connect with people, and it's not so, floating in the air.
No, totally. I think sometimes it's so important, especially at the beginning where you're just exploring and realizing all those beings have their names, and one, it's easier to connect and just exchange ideas, but also I feel like, for the inner sabotages that will always be like, oh, but that's bullshit or that's that. Having those facts, sometimes it's so useful, at least for me. So I can totally see what you're saying about this area of labels that were super useful at the moment, right?
Exactly.
Wow, that's so beautiful. So tell me more. After you started, okay, so basically you're still in LA, you're studying your major of cognitive science. At the side, you're doing minor in 2D arts.
Yeah, it's called two-dimensional studies, but it's basically anything flat or that is flat.
Okay, and you're still rowing, and you come by this big thing in terms of impact and understanding the art therapy, right? How does it go from there? Tell me more. What's your story and how it starts to meander with the creative ways of being?
Yeah. So the next big thing in my life was when I was approaching the end of my studies. I was really thinking, what's the next step? And my friend Ida Gord Jakobsen from Denmark, she was always kind of our mom. She was 2 years older, but she was the first person like who took us in, and like she was really like showing us the way like through this life, the new life. Everything was new in the US. So she was like, she really like, took us in. We became friends, and she was always a huge inspiration to me because of how smart and kind and overall amazing human she is. So I always, not compared myself to her, but she was role model, exactly. And she actually got in to Cambridge to do her master's. And so 2 years before I finished studies. And that really opened my mind to, okay, if she can do it, maybe I can do it as well. It's something that felt I didn't even think about before, but she was almost my and she showed me, it's possible. So that's kind of when she got in, and I was really in awe hearing how she's doing and that she got to compete in boat race, Oxford Cambridge boat race. And that was like something that I dreamed as a little girl, like when I started rowing, and rowing was my biggest passion. And I would like look up and like see those different regattas, and the boat race was like, it's one of the biggest rowing races in the world and very prestigious. And that like she got to do it. That was like, I was like, wow, I know someone who did that. So that became a dream to, to see if it's possible for me to study there and also row there, because that used to, maybe it didn't become my dream. It used to be my dream when I was little. But then it kind of came back to my life, and that's something I started pursuing. So I ended up applying to Cambridge, which was also very adventurous.
And wait, that was already at the end of your studies in the US?
That was my last year of studies.
Last year. Okay. And it's interesting what you mentioned, right? Because it's always been a dream for you since you could remember, right? But considering the burnout thing with rowing, how did it feel in the moment that you still decided, okay, this is what I'm going for?
I think it's because also it had the academic side of studying in the top 3 university in the world. I really felt, whoa, if I can do it, that means I'm actually good. You know? So it wasn't only about rowing, but also about academics. But when it comes to rowing, I feel it really is about, that the love was still there, even though, just hidden something really deep. But it's just something that still I hope to come back to, with hoping that, wow, okay, if I maybe in there, it's going to be different. Or maybe, achieving that, it's going to be, I don't know, it's going to bring the joy back. Or, it's kind of having the hope aspect and just pushing through. Yeah.
Wow, this is such a bipolar relationship as with everything in life, right? But it's such a push and pull in terms of having the hope. And actually, this is a fact that sometimes it's contextual, right? That it's not the thing that makes you burned out. It's just the context that the thing appeared and your brain just connects. So I hate rowing, right? Which might not be true that you love rowing, but the circumstances around it, probably not many people could endure what you endured for 4 years, right? Like nonstop. So that's kind of beautiful that you still left that open, right? That it's not something you just want to stop and never do again.
But it's because there was still something inside. That's the difference. I don't know if it's worth pursuing though. Because that's something that really I feel I came to a point where everything crashed down because I kept going for so long, doing something that I didn't really feel was still aligned, but I still was kind of grabbing the hope.
It's a great point because then it kind of comes back to that. Now it's easy to say what you could have done differently or else, but it's all part of the journey. We'll get to that part next. So yeah, that's kind of beautiful that you're also able to speak about those experiences with such, I don't know, so many different insights and also so much gratitude, right? For the journey, even though it wasn't an easy journey for sure. So yeah, we were talking about how you started thinking, okay, I'm applying to Cambridge. Tell me more about how was the last year still in LA when you knew that you're applying and the whole process, especially mentally, how was it for you?
It was almost like manifesting without knowing what it means. It's just something I really wanted and I felt it's possible for me. So I just took steps to do that, but it wasn't such a smooth road of just, okay, everything aligns, because I would take steps with at the beginning of the year, let's say in September, with, writing to different professors at Cambridge because I wanted to study psychology there. And there you had to have a supervisor going in. You had to know someone, a professor who would agree to, be your mentor and supervisor. And so I just messaged and sent emails with my project idea to, I don't know, everyone that was there.
What was the project?
The project was, again, kind of art therapy. It was about intuitive drawing and using that as a tool kind of for mindfulness and for well-being, kind of not going from the formal therapy setting of art therapy, but just kind of something very specific. Intuitive drawing, that's something that our professor in drawing class introduced to us, that I literally just was in awe of it. I was just, whoa, that's so cool. And I feel it really, you can use it in so many different ways. Basically what it is, you look at the object that you're drawing, but you don't look at your hand. You just let it go. and you try to, I was drawing a shoe. So I just look at this shoe.
Wow.
And go very, very slowly. Just looking at the shoe, having my hand outside and not looking at just letting your hand try to follow the outlines and the different shapes and everything, and try to draw something that is, the object you're drawing, but like really focusing on observing and just looking at the object, and you notice so many different things looking at it, the structure, like the outlines, everything. It just like becomes like so magical. Like you just notice so much more if you put your attention to it. And it was just so meditative and relaxing, and I just got obsessed with this technique. And I really thought, okay, maybe you can I wanted to explore this more from the more, psychological perspective.
Wow, but this is so cool, right? Because I feel it's kind of, let's say, tricking the brain that actually, I don't know if that's how it is for you, but it sounds like the drawing part is almost as this 5%, 95% is about actually you focusing, but without thinking that this is your primary goal, right? So it's using this task-oriented mindset because you need to draw something, but actually it's about the attention, right? And the focus.
Exactly. And like the outcome doesn't matter just because the drawings would be shit. But actually, no, I think they're really cool because they're different. But, it becomes about the process and also just being in the moment and give yourself time and space to just look at something. Just truly, really look at it.
Okay, I can understand why you wanted to pursue that at Cambridge. Wow, that sounds like a really beautiful topic.
So I applied with it, and I emailed so many different professors, and they were all like, "Wow, that sounds cool," but I don't have space or time. And I feel that I was like, okay, well, they don't want me, then fuck it.
That's an empowering thought.
So I kind of put that away, the thought of applying for a few months. And then, but the deadlines for applying were approaching, and I really felt, it feels I'm just not giving myself a true shot on this. And I need to see if I can still try to apply, because
that's huge.
Still feel I want to do.
Wow. So tell me more, because I feel like I know in the hindsight, those are the moments that's so easy to summarize into one sentence. Oh, that's how it came. But I'm so always curious about how is it for you that, you kind of pause the project. You're not applying at the moment. How does it feel? How do you know that it's still alive in you?
It's a bugging thing at the back of your head. I think it's because I really truly saw myself there, and it was such a strong visualization, not consciously, just I really felt that something that is I'm supposed to do next. And putting that away, the feeling was still there, and I now call it an intuition or heart telling you what's kind of next to do. But, if it's there, it's going to keep bugging you.
Okay. But that's beautiful. I think it's such a beautiful insight. And because sometimes I feel it's so hard to understand what intuition is. And is it my intuition or is it my ego, right? And how to navigate and how to differentiate. But it sounds for you in this example, the intuition was something that was persisting, right? So it wasn't like, okay, now it's done. And it's gone and I don't think about it, but it's just nagging you.
Yeah, exactly.
Over and over again.
And it felt like something I really am supposed to do next. So it was a week before the deadlines were applying. And I was like, okay, let's go back a little bit and see if there is maybe some different programs that I could apply for. Because I was so fixated on psychology, because that was what I was doing, studying, and I really, just thought, okay, that's it. But it didn't work. So I took a step back and tried to see if there is something some different approach or some different perspective I could approach the same thing from. So I opened the website, and there was a course that really I felt oh my God, It's insane. It's like meant for me. The course was called Art, Creativity, Education.
Oh my
And
God.
it was an education department. And that's literally like the three things that like I like, you know. I love art and I felt I love education. Like I'm an academic. I love studying, and the education is something like learning about things. Like I love the process of it. So maybe like, you know, the psychology fits within that again.
Wow. First of all, just it's mind blowing that you just found it straight away, you know. And also what is interesting, or I think it's actually crucial in your story, that you even asked yourself a question, how can I approach it differently, right? So you didn't go back into the same project and still like kind of try to force it, right? Even though it was not giving you back, but you opened your mind. And I'm so curious, like, tell me, do you remember like what came to you that you were like, oh, let's just see?
I feel like back then I was just like, it just came. I didn't like think about too much about it. But today actually, like I am part of this like self-development course. That was really cool. And there was a thing that like connects to what we were talking about now. How, you know, like your past thoughts and your past you know, way of approaching things you know, shapes into like what your reality is today. So if you want to change your reality for the future, you have to like look and see what you can change. Because if you keep like, you know, repeating the scheme and like just being in the same, like approaching it the same way, you're going to get the same outcome, right? So it's about stepping back, looking at it from the outside perspective and seeing what can I change, what can I do differently to approach the same thing that feels like it's what I'm supposed to do, like the right thing.
I said, this is so mind-blowing. You know why? Because I'm thinking what you're saying about how your thoughts shape your future, aka your past thoughts shape your now, right? So there's some type of delay going on, right?
Yes.
And I feel like this is also such a prominent teaching of Joe Dispenza work. And you know what's crazy to me in your story? That what you said, that back then you were so far away from like even like those subjects, right? Let's call them manifestation, or however, you were very much into academia and different ways of like getting to know the external world. But what's interesting to me, that your intuition was on board, you know?
Yeah.
Like intuition wasn't something, oh, now I'm manifesting and now I will get the intuition. Like, even though, as you say, back in the day, you can't really explain that it was like intentional process in terms of like really trying to shift your brain or this or that. You just felt it. And I find it so inspiring to hear. Because I feel like there is this misconception that, you know, I don't know, intuition is something grand that you unlock after you step on the path. But like, it sounds like it's always been with you.
And it's actually like something that all connects.
Of course it does.
I really like truly believe that everyone has like an inner voice. You can call it differently, like your heart, your intuition, like your inner compass. I don't know, a voice from God, you know, but you have this inner voice that is guiding you, and you just like have to give yourself space to listen to it. And it's not like, you know, it's always there. It's just like either like more quiet or more loud, depending on like, but it's something that I feel like everyone has. You just like sometimes don't allow yourself to follow this voice, and that's when shit happens in your life, because you kind of like follow a path you're not supposed to, and then at the end the voice is very strong, but it's kind of like, you know, your life has to crash because it's not where you're supposed to do. You have to like go back.
That's beautiful. Yeah, we can go so deep into this, but I find it so beautiful what you said, especially about, you know, when things are crashing in your life, quote unquote, for those who are not watching, that it's not something bad happening, but it's just a feedback loop, and you're getting, let's say, critical feedback from your soul or your, I don't know, like where you meant to be in life, right? So, but it's tricky. Okay, it's tricky. I won't get there because there's whole art in discerning between this is just the challenge I'm attempting and going through, or is it just not meant for me and I'm forcing it, right? But okay, that's a whole thing. But let's get back to art, creativity, and education.
Okay.
You found such a combination of, I don't know, degree, we could say. What happens next?
So it was a week before the deadline. And I got like, whoa, I got so excited, but also very stressed because I had to do so much that I didn't I could have done that earlier, not procrastinate on checking if there is another way to approach it. But I think it was supposed to happen this way, But I had a week to gather, like my thoughts and write like a summary of my research topic. Mm-hmm. And there was like some requirements of what I had to apply with. So, and also gather recommendations from my professor.
Oh my God.
It was just a lot to do. And also like timing wise, it was during when we had, like final exam, some midterm exams for school. And then it was just like a lot happening externally. But I was like, okay, let's put myself together. So I didn't sleep for a week. I still practiced and everything, did my life. But on top of that, I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to apply. And I did. And it really was something, I'm really grateful that I decided to pursue. And okay, so I applied then, and then I heard back, that was December. I heard back mid-January already that I got in without any interview or anything. And I was, okay, that's it. I was kind of disappointed.
I mean, how crazy is that your system's reaction to getting into freaking Cambridge is like, that's it? What the heck?
It's supposed to be more difficult. I didn't, So I got in, and then for the next half a year, it was more about figuring out how am I supposed to afford that? Mm-hmm. Because, with the US, I had a full scholarship in rowing, so I got paid for rowing, and also everything was paid for, the tuition, it was easy. Mm-hmm. But then with Cambridge, there is no such thing like in England, or like it's not so prominent that you get a scholarship to study there. So again, it was about like finding a way of how I can approach it to make it happen. So I applied for different scholarships within my within USC, so in the US, and and I got 2 scholarships that and I put all my savings into making it happen, and there it was. So I was able to actually like go to England and study there for a year, pay for everything like through scholarships and through my savings.
Wow.
Make that happen. So it was very exciting, and kind of like, again, like coming back to what I now call almost manifestation, like if you put your mind to it and like you really feel, then it's gonna happen one way or another.
But wow, I mean, come on. What really struck me in what you just said is that first was an action of applying. So you didn't let for example, how the heck am I going to afford that, block you from taking the first step. This is so huge. Like, this is so powerful that you just took the action and you knew that, okay, the how comes after I apply, right? Without, now I first need to figure out the money situation and then I will apply. Because then there's definitely not enough time for that in a week.
Definitely not.
Wow, but that's so beautiful that it was just so aligned, and also not only aligned in terms of like it's out there, but like you took physical actions, right, to do the research and this and that. So it really, wow, this is so inspiring.
But I think it comes back to, if you feel this inner voice, and like the next thing you have to do is basically take action, any action, because then the ball starts rolling, and then, you don't have to, it's easier to think not what's the end goal, but kind of what's the next step. Because that's the end goal you want, but it's very far away. It's about, having that vision of what's next, or what you're going towards to. but not making it the main thing. It's the main thing is, okay, what's the next step I'm supposed to do?
Wow.
Yeah. So it's about the journey.
Wow.
Yeah. But you have to have the vision first, I guess. But that comes from heart. So
It's also interconnected, right? But I'm curious, how did you trust that you will figure it out? How did you, after you got in, you didn't go into the mode of like, fuck, what's now and how, but you really just took empowered, aligned action instead. Do you remember what was in your head at the moment?
I think it's a little like, I don't remember what was going on back then, but I think it comes down to the same kind of pattern. Or maybe, yeah, the word. I'm missing a word that describes it, but it comes down to like the same shit, basically.
That's a way better word to describe it.
Okay. Fear is something that is there to protect you because you don't know what's going to happen, and the unknown is very scary from psychological point of view. It's something there like to protect you because like it's easier to stay in the same pattern and the same way because you know what's going to happen, and that is, safer in a way, even though it's not something you actually want. But your brain tricks you into, okay, I know that if I like do the same thing, I don't know, wake up, go to, you know what's gonna happen, so it's like safer. You're not gonna get killed or by doing the unknown. But if their heart is calling you to do something known, it's scary because you don't know what's gonna happen. But you kind of like to, or how I approach it is treating it as something, as my friend, and kind of like, okay, hi, it's good to see you. We're gonna do it together, just step by step and see how it goes. And if there is something wrong, you can always go back, but you have to try. You have to give yourself a chance to try. That's kind of how I approached going to the US. Oh, do I take this scholarship and try and change my whole life? Or do I stick to the same pattern of, okay, I'm just gonna like go for the safer option of like staying in Poland and going to the university here. But then I feel I would regret not taking the chance. Because if you don't try, you don't know what's gonna happen, and it's gonna bug you, and you're gonna regret the fear of future regret of being like, oh, I didn't give myself chance to try and see. I feel like that scared me more than the next step of just going on the plane and changing my life. It's worse to have regrets and to try and fail because you can like always go back.
Beautiful people, this is a wrap of part 1 of this conversation. And yes, that means there will be a second episode where we continue diving deeper into creative side of things, into shattering of old identities for sake of finding a new one through intuition and listening to the quiet voice of the heart. So it's going to be absolutely incredible. Click follow or whatever option there is in the platform you're listening to be notified when the next episode drops. And please, if you're enjoying the conversation so far, rate the show. Apparently, it really helps to spread the word. And of course, if you feel like this conversation is something that one of your friends just needs to hear and it will be inspiring for them, go ahead and share. That being said, I really appreciate you. Thank you for your time, and I will see you in the next one.